In July 2025, Porsche CEO sent a memo to employees that basically admitted the company was in serious trouble. He wrote, "Our business model, which has served us well for many decades, no longer works. All of this is hitting us hard, harder than many other car manufacturers." The stock had crashed over 60%, profits had collapsed, and most importantly, Porsche fans were absolutely furious. So how did one of the world's most iconic car brands nearly destroy itself in just a few years? Let me break it down. The electric dream begins. Back in 2019, everything looked perfect for Porsche. They unveiled the Taycan, their first fully electric vehicle, and on paper, the specs were incredible. 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, super fast charging, and it was a proper Porsche that just happened to run on batteries instead of gas. The reviews were amazing. Car journalists loved it, and Porsche CEO Oliver Blume had massive ambitions. His plan was simple but bold. By 2025, half of all new Porsches would be electric. By 2030, over 80% would be fully electric. The goals were clear: maintain profit margins around 15–17%, deliver 400,000 vehicles annually by 2030, and dominate the luxury EV market. Why the push to electric? Now, for hardcore Porsche fans, this seemed weird. Porsche's all about roaring engines and exhaust notes. Why go electric? But to Blume, the market was sending a clear signal. Tesla's profits were exploding. GM was dumping $35 billion into EVs. Ford was making electric versions of the Mustang and F-150. Plus, Volkswagen, Porsche's parent company, had just come out of a massive emission scandal. Their reputation was destroyed. So in 2017, they announced a huge push into EVs called Roadmap E. They committed over $50 billion to battery development. This was coming from the top down. Volkswagen needed Porsche to go electric. The IPO hype. In September 2022, Volkswagen took Porsche public with an IPO that valued the company at 78 billion euros, one of Europe's largest public offerings ever. The hype was real because the Taycan was actually selling well. In 2020, it sold over 20,000 units. By 2023, that jumped to over 40,000 units. The Taycan was closing in on the legendary 911, which sold about 50,000 units that year. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. Porsche's executives were confident. Even in uncertain economic times, the brand remained desirable and exclusive. But they were about to learn a very expensive lesson. The cracks start showing. The early warning signs were subtle. It wasn't about performance or speed. It was about something deeper: the soul. Porsche fans started saying things like, "The only thing I don't love about my Taycan is the lack of engine sound. Every time I'm next to a 911, I long for that sound." The Taycan had all the technology and gimmicks, but something was missing: that visceral, emotional connection that makes a Porsche a Porsche. Then sales completely collapsed. The sales crash. From 40,000 units in 2023, Taycan sales dropped to just over 20,000 in 2024. Profit margins fell from 18% to as low as 10–12%. Meanwhile, their gas-powered cars still selling great, even growing. What the hell was going on? The reliability nightmare. All that new technology came with tons of bugs. Door handles that wouldn't work, car alarms going off randomly, air conditioning failing mid-drive, CarPlay dropping and blasting static, displays turning on and off. But those were just annoyances. The real horror stories came from the service centers. Battery damage could cost $5,500 just for inspection. Full battery replacement? Up to $50,000. Customers had their cars sitting in shops for months. One owner said, "My 2020 Taycan has been an absolute nightmare. It was in the shop for 3 months this summer. Within days of getting it back, the AC stopped working and it's now back in the shop indefinitely. I'm paying almost $2,000 a month for a car I can't even drive." Even worse, over 27,000 Taycans were recalled due to battery short-circuit risks. Owners were told to only charge to 80%. A whistleblower from Porsche claimed that 60% of all delivered Taycans had battery issues, causing replacements, damage, and fires. The depreciation disaster. The resale value absolutely tanked. A $200,000 Taycan Turbo S became worth $70,000 within just a few years. Nobody wanted to buy used Taycans because they were impossible to fix. Local mechanics couldn't service them. They needed guidance from Porsche in Germany, and parts had to be shipped internationally. Then in 2024, Porsche raised the Taycan's price by about $9,000. Yeah, the car that was already having massive problems got more expensive. That's when people really started losing it. Moving the goalposts. By 2024, Porsche quietly changed their tune. They said, the transition to electric vehicles will take longer than we assumed. We could deliver over 80% electric vehicles by 2030, dependent on customer demand. That last part is key. Dependent on customer demand. Translation, our customers don't actually want what we're forcing on them. What Porsche got wrong. Here's the thing. Porsche spent billions trying to convince sports car enthusiasts that electric was better. They built charging networks, they optimized battery technology, they created the most advanced electric sports car ever made. But they never stopped to ask, is this what our customers actually want? The lesson here isn't that EVs are bad and gas cars are good. The lesson is, give customers what they want, not what you think they should want. Tesla succeeded with EVs because they created something entirely new. They attracted customers who wanted silent acceleration, cutting-edge tech, and a futuristic driving experience. But Porsche tried to replace the visceral thrill of an engine with electric motors. That's not what Porsche customers wanted. Porsche customers kept buying gas-powered 911s because that's what a Porsche is. Emotional, loud, thrilling. The heart of the problem. Porsche got so caught up in trends and technology that they forgot something crucial. Sports cars aren't about specs. A Porsche isn't just 0 to 60 times in horsepower numbers. It's about emotion, feel, sound, nostalgia, the thrill of owning something special. The Taycan had the Porsche logo, but it didn't have the Porsche heart. Even Ferrari, which barely touched EVs, was experiencing weak demand for their electric models. Porsche completely misread the room. The collapse. By July 2025, CEO Oliver Blume finally admitted defeat in that memo to employees. Revenue was mostly flat, but earnings had collapsed from $8.2 billion in 2023 to just $3.6 billion. Profit margins dropped. R&D and manufacturing for EVs cost way more than expected. Even rising sales of the 911 couldn't offset the hole created by the Taycan disaster. The stock hit an all-time low, down over 60% from its peak. The response. Porsche announced they'd cut 3,900 jobs by 2029. Investors demanded Blume resign. He's now focusing on Volkswagen instead while they search for a replacement CEO. And most tellingly, Porsche announced they're expanding their lineup to include additional vehicle models with combustion engines or plug-in hybrids. They're going back to what actually makes them money. They haven't given up on EVs completely, but the focus has clearly shifted back to gas-powered cars. My take. This whole situation is wild to me because Porsche's mistake was so obvious in hindsight. They got obsessed with following Tesla and the EV trend. They ignored what their own customers were telling them. They doubled down on a strategy that wasn't working. And now they're paying the price. The irony is that Porsche could have done both. They could have offered electric options for customers who wanted them while continuing to focus on what made them legendary, high-performance gas engines. Instead, they bet everything on a future their customers didn't want. The bigger lesson. This isn't just about Porsche. It's a lesson for every business. You can have the best technology, the most innovative product, the highest specs, but if your customers don't want it, none of that matters. Porsche thought they knew better than their customers. They thought they could force the market to change. They were wrong. Can they recover? The question now is whether Porsche can regain customer trust. They've admitted they were wrong. They're refocusing on gas engines. They're cutting costs. But the damage to their reputation is significant. People who bought Taycans feel betrayed. Potential customers are skeptical. It's going to take years to rebuild that trust, and a lot of really good gas-powered Porsches. What do you think? Would you buy a Porsche EV, or are you team gas engine forever? And do you think Porsche can actually recover from this disaster? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this breakdown showed you what happens when companies ignore their customers, hit that like button and subscribe because I'm covering more stories like this where major brands make massive strategic mistakes. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.